Explaining aggression in the family. As noted at the beginning of this chapter, the different forms of family aggression share a number of common characteristics. See Table 8.1. These include an imbalance of power between perpetrator and victim, supported by economic factors, which enables the dominant persons to enforce their needs through the use of aggression and get away with it. Childhood experiences of family aggression by the abuser, promoting the use of violence as a strategy for conflict resolution that leads to the transmission of aggressive behavior from one generation to the next, and both short-term and enduring behavior patterns of the victim, such as difficult behavior of the child. These shared characteristics are also reflected in a common set of explanations for different forms of family aggression. Explanations of family aggression can be assigned to one of four levels: the macro level of the society or social group in which family aggression occurs, the level of family functioning, the interpersonal level of interaction patterns between different family members, and the individual level of the perpetrator. A summary of variables that may explain the risk of family aggression at each level is presented in Table 8.6. Macro level explanations. Theories in this group seek to identify variables linked to the large variation in the rates of family aggression across cultures. Moreover, they look for variables in the structure, conditions, and value systems of neighborhoods and particular social groups. The extent to which violence is accepted in a culture or social group is thought to affect the prevalence of violence against family members. For example, if there is a general consensus that spanking is an accepted and effective way of disciplining children, the use of corporal punishment is seen as a legitimate child-rearing practice. Another social norm that lowers the threshold for family aggression is the view that how parents treat their children or husbands treat their wives is nothing but their own business, and that it is inappropriate for outside observers to intervene in family conflicts. Along these lines, cultural spillover theory postulates that aggression in the family is higher in societies and social groups in which there is a broader acceptance of aggressive behavior, so that legitimate forms of violence spill over into the family context. For example, the military is a social context in which legitimate forms of violence are carried out, and studies have found elevated levels of family aggression in military samples. Table 8.6, a multi-level approach to understanding family violence. So we have the level of operation, the core assumption, family violence arising out of, and explanatory constructs. The macro level, family violence arising out of cultural norms, values, and practices in a society. Explanatory constructs, patriarchal gender relations with men dominating women, cultural acceptance of physical punishment. Level of operation, the family level, family violence arising out of specific constellations and living conditions in a family. Explanatory constructs, economic stress, crowded housing, lack of communication skills, and transgenerational transmission. Level of operation, interpersonal level, family violence arising out of relationships and behavioral patterns between individual family members. Explanatory constructs, low relationship satisfaction, difficult behavior from victim, e.g. child or elder, unfavorable cost-benefit analysis, and dyadic stress. Level of operation, the individual level, family violence arising out of personality, biographical experience, learning history of perpetrators, vulnerability factors of victims. Explanatory constructs, history of victimization, abuser psychopathology, insecure attachment, social learning processes reinforcing aggressive behavior, and misperceptions and deficits in information processing. Using data from the International Dating Violence Study with college students from 32 countries, Lisova and Strauss 2019 tested hypotheses derived from cultural spillover theory. For each country, they calculated an index of legitimate violence based on the pooled responses of participants to several items, evaluating the acceptability of violence. E.g., it is sometimes necessary to discipline a child with a good hard spanking. This index was then related to students' responses to the physical violence and injury scales of the conflict tactics scales, see box 8.1. Consistent with cultural spillover theory, they found significant correlations between the normative acceptance of aggression and reports of overall physical intimate partner violence perpetration, R equals 0.35, and severe physical intimate partner violence perpetration, R equals 0.58, for the pooled scores aggregated across all participants in a country. These correlations were higher than the correlations between individual participants' approval of aggression and their intimate partner violence perpetration, R equals 0.14 for the total physical violence perpetration score, and R equals 0.15 for the severe physical violence perpetration score. Responses to the injury scale did not vary between countries depending on the legitimization of violence scores. Moreover, the finding of a growing body of research that intimate partner violence rates are higher in times of war and armed conflict in a society may be explained by the spillover of violence from the public into the private sphere. In addition, the patriarchal structure of societies has been identified as promoting family aggression, especially in feminist accounts of men's violence against female partners. Murray and Russo, 1999. Patriarchal societies are characterized by a clear-cut power differential between men and women, with men dominating women in most areas of public and private life. Male dominance is linked to a positive evaluation of male assertiveness and aggressiveness. In societies where social institutions are dominated by men, it is hard for women to be acknowledged as victims of male violence, to secure help, and to enforce the legal prosecution of perpetrators. Although linking aggression in the family to power differentials in society would seem plausible, there is limited empirical evidence from psychology to support this notion, at least in Western cultures. An exception is the work by Vandello and Cohen, 2008, who examined differences in the acceptability of physical partner abuse in cultures that differ in their endorsement of a culture of honor. In honor cultures, it is important for men to uphold an image of toughness, which includes their ability to make sure that their female partner behaves in a socially accepted way based on prevailing standards of female decency. If women are seen as violating the honor code by undermining men's authority or reputation, men's use of physical violence can serve to restore their threatened manhood. In addition, indirect support for the idea of patriarchal power structures as a structural variable that promotes family aggression comes from research linking masculinity to family aggression at the individual level. Theories focusing on male dominance over women are limited in that they cannot explain aggressive behavior by women in the context of family relationships, nor can they explain violence in same-sex relationships. Macro-level explanations seek to explain why family aggression is more prevalent in certain societies and social groups. They cannot answer the question of why domestic violence occurs in some families but not others, and is performed by some individuals and not others. Family-level explanations. Explanations at this level treat the family as the unit of analysis and try to identify structural features of family functioning that increase the likelihood of aggression. The family violence perspective sees conflict as an inevitable part of family life because of the amount of time family members spend together, the closeness and reciprocity of interactions, and the norms and expectations attached to different roles. Intrafamilial stress, resulting from limited economic resources and environmental stressors, such as crowded housing conditions and poor access to childcare or other social services, has been linked to an increased risk of family aggression. Moreover, members of a family in which conflict is handled by aggressive means learn aggressive behavior patterns through mutual reinforcement and imitation. If abusers learn that their violent actions lead to the intended consequences, and victims learn that the violence can be stopped by complying with the perpetrator's demands, interaction routines develop that reinforce aggressive behavior. In abusive families, children learn that aggressive behavior is rewarded and that the abusers usually achieve their objectives, and they may incorporate aggression into their own patterns of behavior. Aggression replaces more constructive forms of conflict resolution through negotiation and prevents the development of appropriate communication skills. These processes of learning through imitation and reinforcement can explain the transgenerational transmission of violence documented in the literature. As noted earlier in this chapter, children who experience or witness violence at home are at greater risk of showing aggressive behavior themselves in subsequent relationships with partners and children because they adhere to their acquired scripts and patterns of conflict resolution by means of aggressive behavior. Interpersonal level explanations. Explanations at this level consider the nature of the interactions between individual family members as precipitators of family aggression, paying special attention to the dyadic nature of aggressive interactions in the family. Interpersonal stress resulting from relationship dissatisfaction and reciprocal provocation, e.g., between a difficult child and a parent using harsh punishment, has been proposed as a risk factor for family aggression. From the point of view of social exchange theory, satisfaction with interpersonal relationships within the family is based on a cost-benefit analysis in which family members weigh their investments in the relationship, e.g., emotional commitment, time, money, against the perceived benefits, e.g., emotional rewards, material goods, social status. If the investments are perceived as outweighing the benefits, e.g., when expectations about the partner are not fulfilled or when children place high demands on their parents' attention and care, the theory predicts that dissatisfaction will be experienced and alternative relationships will be explored. Given that marital relationships are not easily terminated and parent-child relationships are even harder, if not impossible, to dissolve, aggression has been explained as a response to the dissatisfaction that results from relationships in which the costs are seen as exceeding the benefits. Individual level explanations. A large body of research has explored the causes of family aggression at the level of the individual perpetrator. One line of explanation has focused on psychopathology to explain abusive behavior. From this perspective, individuals who suffer from personality disorders or mental illness have a higher risk of abusing family members, particularly because they have problems controlling hostile feelings and aggressive impulses. Moreover, as described above, exposure to family aggression in childhood raises the odds of engaging in abusive behavior in adulthood. Personality characteristics such as low self-esteem, insecurity, and feelings of vulnerability have been proposed to explain why individuals behave aggressively towards family members who are typically less powerful than themselves. For a discussion of the link between self-esteem and aggression, see Chapter 4. As noted in Chapter 4, lack of self-control, defined as the capacity to stop, override, or alter unwanted behaviors, has been shown to be related to aggressive behavior, which includes aggression against a family member. Self-control varies both between individuals as a trait and between situations as a state. Exerting self-control is seen as an effortful process which is impaired by exposure to stress from outside and within the family system. As a result, the ability to override aggressive impulses is reduced. The self-control model of family aggression by Finkenauer et al. 2015 proposes that, in addition to external stressors such as poverty, frequent conflict, low marital satisfaction, harsh parenting, and other negative aspects of family relations, undermine the self-regulation capacities of family members, which in turn reduces their ability to control aggressive impulses. In support of this reasoning, research has shown that children exposed to family aggression show deficits in executive function, a core component of cognitive aspects of self-control, and mothers with poorer executive function respond more negatively to children's problem behavior, leading to the escalation of conflict and violence. Dieter Deckard, 2014. Finally, misperceptions and misguided expectations have been shown to play a role in both child abuse and partner abuse. For example, misinformed expectations about children's age-normative behavior and abilities at different ages can lead parents to perceive their child's behavior as unreasonable and inadequate, resulting in excessive discipline. In child sexual abuse, the abuser may misperceive the child's lack of resistance as an indication of consent. Misperceptions have also been shown to play a role in intimate partner violence. For example, Neighbors et al. 2010 found that physically abusive men significantly overestimated the rate of physical partner abuse in the population at large relative to the rates obtained in representative surveys. The General Aggression Model, GAM, introduced in Chapter 2, has been applied to individual-level processes that give rise to aggressive behavior against family members. The GAM conceptualizes person variables, such as attitudes condoning violence, and situational influences, such as alcohol and drug use or antagonistic behavior from a child or elder, as input variables. These factors elicit cognitive processes, such as hostile attributions, affective processes, such as anger and arousal, undermining self-control, that pave the way for aggressive behavior towards a partner or family member. DeWall et al. 2011. The explanations discussed in this section have addressed different variables associated with an increased likelihood of family aggression. Some of these highlight the specific nature of family aggression as resulting from a constellation of characteristics that distinguishes interactions in families from other types of social relationships. Other explanations refer to general theories of aggression to apply them to the family context. No single explanation can aspire, nor indeed claims to, predict precisely who will show abusive behavior and who will not, and what social and situational conditions precipitate family aggression. Not every man who grows up in a patriarchal society turns into an abuser, nor does everyone who is exposed to external stress or aggressive role models within the family. Macro-level factors, such as cultural norms, are relatively stable and permanent. They provide the background against which aggressive behavior is carried out. Family-level, interpersonal, and individual factors, such as distressed family relationships, external stress, and also victim-produced stress, have a more immediate impact on the unfolding of aggressive interactions. For example, children who are going through the temper tantrum stage, or elders who are losing control over their vital faculties and need full-time care, may create tensions within the family and frustration in the individual carer, both increasing the likelihood of aggressive behavior. It is the combination and interaction of these different risk factors that eventually precipitate aggressive behavior against family members. Summary. This chapter has reviewed the evidence on the prevalence, risk factors, and consequences of major forms of family aggression, child abuse in the form of physical, sexual, and emotional maltreatment, as well as witnessing family aggression, physical aggression towards intimate partners, and abuse of elders in the family. Because it is shielded from outside detection and there is a general reluctance to intervene in family affairs, underreporting is a particular problem for establishing the scale of family violence. Nonetheless, the available sources, official reports, survey data, and research studies have identified substantial prevalence rates for each form of violence against family members. Many effects of family aggression on the victims are similar across different types of abuse. Post-traumatic stress disorder, depressive symptoms, and impairment of physical health are commonly identified in child and adult victims of family aggression. In addition, there is consistent evidence that early exposure to violence in the family makes individuals more vulnerable to victimization in later life and also puts them at greater risk of perpetrating violence in their own family. A controversial issue refers to gender differences in family aggression perpetration, particularly with regard to intimate partner violence. Whereas surveys and crime statistics suggest that men are more likely to show physical aggression against a female partner, data from research studies based on the conflict tactics scales indicate that women are just as involved as perpetrators of intimate partner violence, if not more so. However, there is consistent evidence of a greater risk of injury to female victims. The distinction between different types of intimate partner violence in the forms of situational couple violence, controlling coercive violence, and violent resistance may help to create a more differentiated picture of the perpetration of intimate partner violence by men and women. Explanations of family aggression discuss causes located at the societal level, e.g., acceptance of corporal punishment at the level of the family system, e.g., economic stress, at the interpersonal level between family members, e.g., poor communication skills of family members, unrealistic expectations of parents about their children's behavior, and at the level of the individual perpetrator, e.g., psychopathology, childhood experience of family aggression.